The story you're about to hear really happened. It's not just a story, it's a true story, and it comes from the Bible, the special book that contains all the stories of God. A long time ago, God breathed his words onto paper, and then all these pieces of paper were put together into books, and each book was given a name. You can see all the names of all the books on this bookshelf. There are 66 in all. And all these little books were attached together to make one big book we call the Bible. Every word in the Bible is true, and it is written especially for you. Today's story is found in the very first book of the Bible, called Genesis. The name Genesis means beginnings. All the stories found in Genesis happened way back at the beginning of the world. This is the desert. Not the whole desert, just a small piece. So many wonderful and important things happen in the desert that we need a small piece of it here to help us know what it is like. Now, the desert is a dangerous place. It is always moving, so that it is hard to know where you are. During the day, the sun beats down on the sand, and you can get scorched and thirsty. There's very little water in the desert, and you can die if you don't find water. And almost nothing grows in the desert, so there is almost nothing to eat. And when the wind blows across the surface, it changes it, so that from one day to the next, it is never the same. It is easy to lose your way in the desert. People get lost there. The desert is a dangerous place. People don't go there unless they have to. When the flood was over, the creatures went out in all four directions of the earth to fill it up with life again. They often gathered along the rivers, and so did the people. They lived in small villages and then cities. One of the ancient and greatest of these cities was called Ur. In the city of Ur, the people believed that there were many gods. There was a god for every tree, every rock, every flower. There was a god of the sky, a god of the clouds, a god of the water, and a god of the land. The world was alive with gods. But there was one family that believed that all of God was in every place. They did not yet know that, but that is what they believed. Abram and Sarai were part of that family. And when it came time to move to a new place, they were not sure that God would be there. And they wondered what the new place would be like. They walked toward Haran with their sheep and their donkeys. Even the old people went with them, and all the children. At night, they slept in their tents. And during the day, they walked along the great river called Euphrates. It showed them the way and gave them and all their animals water to drink. It took a long, long time. Finally, they met people coming out from the city of Haran, and they knew the journey was almost over. And then they were there. Sometimes Abram would go out to the edge of the desert and look out across the sand and into the sky. And then God came so close to Abram, and Abram came so close to God that he knew what God wanted him to do. God wanted Abram and Sarai to move on again to another new place. Abram and Sarai did what God said. They went into the desert to the west of Haran and walked toward Canaan. They went with all their sheep, their tents, and many helpers. Abram's brother's son Lot also went with them. This time there was no river to show the way or give them water to drink. They finally came to a place called Shechem. There, Abram climbed up a hill and prayed to God. And he found that God was there. And so Abram built an altar to mark the place. Then they went on. Next, they came to a place near Bethel. Abram prayed again and found that God was there also. And so Abram built an altar to mark this place too. God was not just here or there. All of God was everywhere. And then they went on to Hebron. And there they made their home, near the oaks of Mamre. One night, God brought Abram outside. He looked up into the night sky. And Abram came so close to God. And God came so close to Abram that Abram knew what God was saying to him. You will become the father of a great family, and Sarai will be the mother. The members of the great family will be as many as there are stars in the sky and grains of sand in the desert. Abram laughed. He was 100 years old, and Sarai was 99. They were too old to have children. God's promise sounded impossible. But God said he would change their names to remind them that this would really happen. From now on, Abram was to be called Abraham, which means father of many. And Sarai was to be called Sarah. Then one day, 3 strangers came out of the desert. Abraham was sitting by his tent. He invited them in, and Sarah mixed 3 measures of flour, which is a lot. She made them bread and meat to eat, and gave them milk and water to drink, as was the custom. The visitors told Abraham that not too long from now, he and Sarah would have a son. Sarah was standing by the tent and heard them. She laughed. They were too old. The 3 strangers went back into the desert. And do you know what happened? Soon after that, Abraham and Sarah had a son. I wonder if they must have laughed again with joy, because they named the baby Isaac, which in their language means laughter. When Isaac was grown up, old Sarah died. She was buried in the cave near the oaks of Mamre. Abraham was lonely. He missed Sarah very much. But he had one more thing he had to do. He sent his most trusted helper back to the land of his people to find a wife for Isaac. After his long journey, Abram's helper stopped by a well in the evening. A young woman named Rebekah offered to give him some water to drink. She then helped him give water to all his animals. She was as full of courage as she was kind. Rebekah then invited him home to have dinner with her family. Over dinner, he told them about Abraham and Sarah and the great family. Rebekah decided she would like to be part of that great family. So she went with the helper back across the desert, past Shechem and Bethel, toward Hebron. Isaac saw them coming and went out to meet them. And then Isaac and Rebekah were married. Now Abraham was very old and full of years, and he died and was buried with Sarah in a cave by the trees. Then Isaac and Rebekah had children, and their children had children, and those children had children. And this went on for many thousands of years, until your grandmothers and grandfathers had children, and then your mothers and fathers had children. And now you are part of that great family, which has become as many stars in the sky and as many grains of sand in the desert. Now I wonder what part of this story you like the best. I wonder what part is most important. I wonder where you are in this story, or what part of this story is about you.